Hello, viewers and listeners all over. Welcome back to the Youth Destiny Nucleus podcast. Today, we have a very special guest with us in our midst. If you're a student, a secondary school student, as well as a student of any of the tertiary institutions, I would crave your indulgence to just sit tight and listen with rapt attention to this one because it's going to be quite interesting today. So without any further ado, let's have our guest do us the honors of introducing herself. You're welcome.
Hi everyone, good day to you all. I'm Edward Pheobe Gideon. I'm currently a 400 level medical student studying at Ahmadu Bello University Zaria. It's actually a rare privilege for me to be here, and I really want to thank you to the anchor of this program for giving me such an opportunity and a privilege to be here. Thank you, and thank you to everyone, our listeners. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
On behalf of the entire Youth Destiny Nucleus family, I would like to say a huge welcome to the Youth Destiny Nucleus podcast. And I would also like to say a huge thank you for your willingness to take up the opportunity to share your knowledge with us. You really could have turned it down because we understand that your schedule as a student can be quite demanding and tasking, but you did not hesitate to make yourself available to share your knowledge and experience today with us on the podcast. We want to thank you and let you know that we do not take for granted the fact that you have taken out of your time to be here with us today. It's my belief that our conversation today is going to be very fruitful, and I would like to implore the students listening, if you're a secondary school student or a tertiary institution student, I'd like to encourage you to brace up, sit tight. Today's conversation is going to be quite empowering and educative. Not to waste any more time, let's go ahead and move into the first question of the day, because we have quite a few questions we'd like to ask you. So has there ever been a time you considered other options besides medicine, and what made you settle for medicine specifically?
Actually, while growing up, I don't know, like from my conscious memory, I think medicine was not really my thing. Though I have read books on medicine, books by Ben Carson, and some story books where the love of medicine would normally increase, the love for medicine would normally increase. But personally, it was not really a thing. I think sometimes there was a time where I was in love with petrochemical engineering. I think when NNPC was booming and they were talking about oil money, I think I was in love with petrochemical engineering. And then I can recall that there was a time that I was in love with psychology. I think that was my senior secondary school. When I read the books on temperament, I fell in love with psychology. I really wanted to know why people were behaving the way they were behaving, why they were doing a lot of stuff. And I got some discouragement saying that you're too smart for that, you're too bright for that. It's not really a marketable and a profitable course in Nigeria. So I got, should I say, discouragement. And at one point I was like, even psychiatry, and they were like, wow, psychiatry, you end up being like a crazy person. I don't know how true. They said those who treat like psychiatrists eventually become the patients, those who are taking care of them. So like these were some of the options I had, and I don't know how, like I can't even tell how I eventually went for medicine. And actually no one lured me, or there was no pressure to get into medicine at all. There was no pressure. It was just me. I don't know, maybe God just laid it in my heart. Went for JAM registration and I chose the same course. I chose medicine, and how I even had to apply again, I got it on my second attempt. So I think it was just God who laid it in my heart. If not, medicine was not really an option for me, kind of.
Wow. That's quite interesting. On my own path, there was a time I had a knack for electrical engineering because my father is an electrical engineer. So you know that urge to want to follow the same path as him. You have the mentorship and the guidance to excel in that profession. So there was a time I really wanted to go into electrical engineering. And funny enough, just like you, I came across a book titled Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And when I read that book, I began to develop an interest for psychology. Psychology is quite a broad and fascinating profession, but like you said, also God has his way of redirecting us back to the path of our destinies. So thank you very much for that exposition. Let's move on right to the next question. So can you tell us what your experience was the first day you walked into the dreaded gross anatomy labs where you have cadavers?
My experience the first time I walked into cadaver or gross lab, oh well, for us, they had like a session for us not to dissect. Before we started dissecting, like they knew that most of us had never seen dead bodies before. So they just arranged the dead bodies in the lab and asked us to line up. We did, and you just go one by one, and you watch it. So that was just how it was. We just followed, and you just see it and pass it and pass. It was not really, for me personally, it was quite okay. I wasn't really like shocked, or I didn't really feel scared, or I didn't get scared. There was nothing like that actually. Though that was the first time I was seeing a dead body, but there was no fear, nothing. It just left me thinking like, okay, this world, like upon all your riches, some of the people that were lying there, like you cannot really tell. Some of them might have been very rich before they died, but like this is the end of every man. Like maybe in all their riches, their earthly riches, like this is where they end up. Like we'll just come and dissect, open, and so actually just got me thinking. But for the aspect of fear or anything, it wasn't really there. You can actually say hard girl. I'll take that because even our class guys said, okay, other sets they said people fainted, some of the ladies especially, but nobody in my class fainted. There was nothing like that. So you can actually say I'm a hard girl. My class guy said all of us in the class are guys. Like, how comes none of us fainted or cried or did anything? We were actually cool. So hard girl in the building.
Hard girl. That's an interesting one. So you don't blame me when I begin to call you this. This is your nickname from today henceforth, hard girl, and nothing is going to make me stop calling you this. The listeners are my witness, but no, seriously, I believe it's quite interesting to note your experience. I think one of the major factors that aided you guys and helped you to be more composed on the day you saw them was the orientation factor. Like you said, you guys were taken there by someone to acquaint you with the cadavers, and this is prior to your first ever dissection practical, right? I think this is quite interesting, the mentorship and the guidance prior to the main deal itself. This can go a long way to help prevent the advent of the fainting experiences that you made mention of as well. So let's move on to the next question. Can you tell us your funniest and your scariest experience so far in medical school? This one's going to be interesting, I guess.
Okay, my funniest and scariest med school experience. Oh well, for my funniest med school experience, I'm not sure if I have any. Like the only one I have is like, okay, I didn't do well in a particular test. Like when I say I didn't do well, I actually didn't do well. And okay, I didn't even know that the test results was released. I was sleeping, and my friend came into the room, called my name. What's up? she came prepared to go to class to read. And she now asked me, have you seen so test results? And I was like, no. She was like, okay, if you see your test results, you stand up and go to class. And I was like, oh, really? And actually, as I saw this, she just passed her phone to me. I checked the test score, just gave her the phone back, and left the room. Just packed my things and went to class. And funny enough, after seeing the test results, we went to class. I could not even read. I could not cry. I couldn't do anything regarding that test. And thanks be to God, I actually passed the course without any issue. Like, I really thank God. I think that's like one of the funniest, like thinking about it, how my friend was like, if you see a test score, you go to class, like, and read. It's actually, it's actually made me laugh. Like, when I'm thinking about it now, but at that moment, no, not at all. Then my scariest med school experience, I think, was in 100 level when I saw the results of one of our seniors, like their MB result was out, and like for the first time I like encountered and saw results with people being withdrawn. My God, it was very scary. Like, oh God, is this what I signed up for? Like, you can get withdrawn, nothing like carry over like other departments. So for some time, actually, it was scary, like looking at people getting withdrawn. It was actually very, very scary. So that is it, I think, for my scariest and funniest med school experience.
This is very, very funny. It's quite hilarious, to be honest. I like your roommate. She has a great sense of humor, and I must give that to her. Can you imagine? She was talking to the hard girl, and she didn't even care. She was like, it seems you haven't seen your test scores, because if you have, that would have been enough motivation to get you off that silly nap you're trying to have and teleport you over to the lecture hall to start studying immediately. I'm just pulling your legs. It's quite funny, and we thank God for how far He has brought you through med school. Like you said, you aced the course without any much challenges. So we thank God for how far He has brought you. And you also made mention of the fright of seeing some of your seniors go to the notice board and find that they have probably dropped out of med school, been withdrawn from med school rather, or would have to repeat particular years through med school, and not having the same opportunity that other students have in other departments to write carryover exams to make up in due time for their failures. So med school is sort of a perfect balance between the ups and downs. It will give you a fine balance of the happy moments, the fulfilling moments, as well as the scary moments. And we thank God for how far He's taking you through med school. So let's move on to the next question of the day. There's this plague called imposter syndrome in med school. That feeling of inadequacy that hits you from time to time in the midst of your peers and your colleagues, where you see people who are doing so well academically, and you begin to ask yourself if it's the same brain that these people have that you are carrying. That pressure and that feeling that you are not good enough and you are not up to the task. Have you ever dealt with this, and can you give us some tips on how to navigate through this phase in your life as a medical student?
Speaking about imposter syndrome in med school, I don't know. I don't want to really call it imposter syndrome, because I feel like it's something that should be managed, like at first, like from the initial thought of it, is something that should try and be managed. So it's not as if there are not days that you feel inadequate, or there are days that everything will be overwhelming, you feel inadequate. There's a saying that they say that when you come to med school, you drop your local champion, like right from 100 level, getting to 200 level. That's what they've been telling us. When you come to med school, you drop your local champion, and that's very true. From wherever you are coming, you may have been the best And it's not as if it's for you to accept being an average. No, that's not it. Okay, they would actually tell you this a lot, but it's not for you to be an average student. It's just for you to drop pride. That I feel that's the major message there, for you to drop pride. Because actually, med school, truth be told, you would see smart people, extra smart people. You would like, you can actually think, okay, you are smart. Yes, you are smart too, but you see people who are way smarter. I'm not capping this. It's actually true. When you hear jump scores, you be people who had jump scores of 330 something. People with jump scores of, you just be hearing jump scores as if it's honestly. So the idea is that you feel inadequate or you're not enough. But what I actually do is that, okay, when I tend to get, things get overwhelming, the books, and sometimes you'd even hear people pouring out stuff, and you feel like, am I in the same class with this person? Have I been reading? What have I been doing with my life? So there are days like that. But one thing, I try my best not to get intimidated by anyone or with anything that anyone says. I know myself. So once some things like this happen, I try to even avoid being around like people that I feel intimidated by. So that's what happened. It's not as if like I don't learn from them, but there is a way you get to know that, okay, this thing is really getting to you. And okay, the idea is where you accept the challenge, you pick up the challenge, and the idea is that you know that this is really getting to you, that you can't even read, you can't even concentrate. So for me personally, I try and avoid, like, if you can be saying this stuff, if I know this is something that I can benefit from, I listen. Maybe when I go back, I check it on my own. And then if I feel like you're trying to intimidate me or make me look small, I actually like avoid you, even if it's not like completely for some time. I avoid certain discussions with you to maintain my sanity. So like your sanity is very important to your peace. So it's good. Even when things are overwhelming, you tell yourself you can't do it, you've done it before. And like God has seen you through, so you can do it this time around. Like the same way it happened before, you can scale through. So this is just like how I manage it. So actually med school, honestly, you see a lot of, like, you'd pick up a lot of challenges. You see people that can read without getting tired. You see people that can sacrifice sleep, like they'll sleep small hours, like 3 hours, just to be reading. So honestly, you would actually see a lot of this in med school, but you just have to know yourself and try not to get intimidated by anyone. Let me use Nigerian English. Last we go there alright. Honestly, last we go there alright. So just try and do your best. And know that not every one of us is the same. So with that, to try and like accept yourself the way you are. Don't try to be someone else. Like, I know myself. So there are certain reading styles that I can't even try it. So you just try to maintain something that is workable and is feasible for you. That's one of the things I can say about imposter syndrome.
Wow, that's powerful indeed. From what I can infer from what you've said, the friends we keep in our circle matters a lot. You need to protect your sanity and your peace of mind the best you can, because you can't afford to expose yourself to any form of toxicity at any level. If you notice someone is giving off that toxic vibes to you, it's your responsibility to shake up your circle immediately and rather hang around people who uplift you and help you become a better version of yourself. There's no point hanging around someone whose energy is making you feel inadequate and making you feel less of yourself. So from the moral lesson, if I'm going to say from what you've said, is to pay attention to the individuals we condone in our circles, and from time to time it might be necessary that we withdraw from certain people so